Hey, what is up, YouTube Fight family? I'm here with the amazing UFC former fighter, Claudia Gadhela. I appreciate you for coming on. But first things first, please explain to the audience who you are. How'd you get into the sport of female MMA?
All right, hi everybody. Happy to be here. I'm trying to, get to talk to people a little more about my life because I feel like I've done a lot for the sport, and now I recently retired from MMA, and I feel like I want to help so many people out there that are dreaming to get in the UFC one day, or striving to do great things in life. So I'm from Brazil. I was born in the northeast of Brazil in a very small town, like close to the Amazon area. Um, Grew up in a traditional family. Didn't have a lot of opportunities growing up, and I always talk about this. Like being poor in Brazil, it's way different than being poor in America. So my life was tough growing up. Didn't have opportunities, like I said, and I found in jiu-jitsu a way out of something. I was like, okay, and I think by doing this I can get somewhere in life. So I decided to invest my time and and put a lot of effort into BJJ first. Competed a lot of jiu-jitsu from like 13 to like 21 years old. I was the first black belt in the Novo União history. Novo União was the team that brought up Jose Aldo, Hernan Barao, and a bunch of other UFC fighters that had a really good career in the UFC. Um, I was there with them for like 10 years. That's where I kind of like learned martial arts. And I'm talking about when women was not in the UFC, right? And it was even like hard to find girls to compete in jiu-jitsu. And imagine, can you imagine in MMA it was like super, super hard, but I was like one of the first ones doing this, and was tough, like first to do something out of fighting. And then when I started like training and fighting, it was hard because I was a girl in a time where girls were not doing really good in jiu-jitsu and MMA. So I went through some struggles, but that's what life is about. Made it to the UFC in the age of 24, competed in the UFC for 8 years, and just retired back in December. Now I work here in the UFC. I am directing the athlete development with Forrest Griffin, and it's amazing to share my experience with everybody and kind of like um, see fighters going through so many things that I went through and being able like to help them. It's really like what's driving me in life right now.
Honestly, that is like the best thing that you have said because I've been watching you since I was in high school. Um, I started watching UFC I think around like early 2000s, and I believe you joined the UFC. Correct me if I'm wrong. From what the 2008 time frame, right?
Yeah, so I started fighting MMA in 2008, but I didn't get to the UFC until 2014.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah. So as far as your development goes, how hard was it for you to even get those type of big TV offers to get to get to the level that you got to inside the UFC, and how much progression do you think female MMA has grown ever since that time
Oh,
frame?
that's a really good question. It was very challenging for me. Like I said, I'm a pioneer in the sport, and like girls come in today and they already like have kind of like a blueprint of what it takes to step on that octagon. I didn't have that, and the way I used to train MMA was just like go to the gym and beat the shit out of each other, and then that's the way you get ready, right? That's the way I thought. We thought it was the blueprint to step into an octagon and fight, but I don't feel like it is, and that's one of the reasons why I retired in my early 30s. I still have like the mindset, and I like I go to the gym and train, and I do really good against everybody, but like I just don't want to go through what I've been through to step in that octagon. It's so hard, and also like all the injuries, all like you know the damage my body took for so many years without knowing what I was doing kind of like paid off. And I decided just to get what I learned, use my experience to help other people. um, it was like very rough in the beginning, and like fighting is not comfortable, stepping in octagon and not it's not comfortable, I don't believe in fighters that say they love to step in there and fight. Yeah, I love to step in there and compete, but like fighting is not a comfortable like situation. So like it's most of all it's like how much you're willing to go through that stuff for a long period of time. I feel like I used fighting as an opportunity to do other things in life. Yeah, I fought for the title, I coached the Ultimate Fighter, I won so many fights, but like how much more damage I was gonna take to my body, so I had a really bad concussion last year, and that's what kind of led me to decide to retire and do other things.
Yeah, I definitely see your point of view because compare that to boxing. I would say MMA is probably like the most dangerous sport. A little bit higher as far as like the scale of taking damage, and I think as far as just as what the financial ramifications that you have to go through just to get into that fight, and hopefully you come back in one piece. That's a lot harder to take that longer recovery process and actually get like your mind back into wanting to fight. But as far as for what you've done in the sport, you've done a lot of great things to put female MMA on that high display, because like not a lot of females wanted to take that risk to be fighting those high level opposition names that were on the come up. And I don't know if you can agree with me, but do you think women like Ronda Rousey brought that spark to female MMA through the UFC, and you included to make that branding a lot more popular for the sport?
Definitely, like hats off to Ronda Rousey because before her, I remember like being in the gym training just as hard as the guys and not knowing was what was gonna be for us, right? We had an idea that might could have happened, but like Dana have said in the past, no, like we'll never have women in the UFC, and then we were like a little like not a lot of us but some of us were still believing that was gonna happen, so like but we were not sure. And then when Ronda Rousey started like doing her thing and like showing more of the entertaining side of MMA, and showing her beauty, and also like going stepping in the octagon and beating a lot of people really fast, the UFC was like, okay, let's see what they are about. And so she opened the doors for us to come in and kind of like show what we do. And then also not only opened the doors for us to come in, but also to like it was more like I would say an investment in women's MMA, because then we started like training more, fighting more, and making more money to be able to go back to the gym, invest in ourselves, and get better. And that's how MMA evolve, right? When like fighters go back to the gym and rethink and like um, reformulate everything and invest money in their career, that's when the sport grows. That's when fighters grow, and that's what Ronda Rousey did. So hats off for Ronda.
Yeah, because the reason why that I said that is because like I think like you have to take that sacrifice just to put yourself on the map, and compare that to female boxing with women like Clarissa Shields, Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor. Though like those type of those type of females had had to take that risk just to put themselves on a higher stage. And I felt like, compare that to, to your background and how you got into the sport. That's what made women grow more to that higher stage. And I feel like sooner than later in the future, that's where, like the marketability will start to skyrocket a bit more. So that way, the market innovations can start benefiting those females that are starting to get into the sport.
Yeah, like we were definitely taking risks. Um, like my first MMA fight was back in 2008, and I made $70, like 70. So I was like
What?
risking my life. Yeah, like I
Oh
was
my
risking my
god!
life for nothing.
Wow.
Um, and I don't even want to talk about my first like four fights that I made no money. It was just like experience, and trying to get into the sport and taking the risk, like you said, to be where I am today. But I believed it in the process, and I took the risk, I took the damage, and I did everything it needed to I needed to take to do in order to get here today. So like looking back, I didn't grow up in a good environment. I didn't grow up in a rich family. I didn't have opportunities in life. So like to be sitting in this chair today here in the UFC and doing what I'm doing in life, it feel grateful, and very thankful. I thank my young self that put the work in and kind of like had a mindset and a work ethic to go to the gym every day and do what it needed to be done in order to become a great fighter and do the things I done in the sport. So I have nothing to regret, and it was tough. It was hard. Like I am one of the first girls that ever like fought MMA, but like look at us now and look what we've done, and that's what life is about, breaking records and challenging life and challenging ourselves. I feel like I'm a very happy and grateful person for what I've done in the sport and moving on now, I only expect great things because I still have the same work ethic and mentality and mindset that I got from the sport. And this is going to carry on with me for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. As far as your career goes, who would you say that was like the toughest opposition that you faced? I like, I basically wanted to ask that to see, like, as far as like your progression of what you did in your career, um, like what type of fighters that brought the best out of you, that elevated your career to say, I'm that woman to become that lineal threat, to the division.
Um, so, yeah, I had like a very bad beef with Joanna, um, but she definitely brought the best out of me. She like the first time I ever lost was for Joanna. So like she made me go back to the gym and think and rethink things and realize what I was doing wrong, what I was doing right. She kind of like drove me into making like big decisions in my life around like moving, and those big transitions I had in my life from moving from place to place to find like better training, better sparring partners and things like that. I was chasing greatness, and the reason why I wanted to be great is because I wanted to beat her. And as a competitor, I look at the sport and the division on that way. I wanted to be the best one in there, and I fought for that. That's what made me thrive through like so many years. And the reason why I am that woman today is because I went through all those struggles to grow for something, So I'm so thankful for like the girls that made me go back to the gym and train so hard and and go through so many struggles to grow. And Joanna was one of them. Jessica Andrade, also, I would say, toughest girl I ever fought in my life. The girl's a beast. Um, um, Jessica Aguilar. Like when I fought her, she was like number one ranked strawweight in the world outside of the UFC. Um, like so many girls that made me go through so many things in order to grow and become better.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what the great thing about the UFC. They do force the best to fight each other consistently. Um, that was very interesting that you mentioned those females because I thought those were actually the best fights out of the entire timeline, and that's what brought a lot of attention to to those particular divisions. But as far as the progression of fighters these days, what type of style do you think fighters should be focusing more on? As they start getting into that high level, as they enter into the UFC or Bellator or any other big premier leagues.
I would say so. It's very tricky, right? Because MMA is such a young sport. I'm talking about a sport that's less than 30 years old, right? Um, a lot of people in MMA that fights today and fought for the last 30 years came from another sport, right? Say I came from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Chris Cyborg came from Muay Thai, Ronda Rousey came from Judo, right? And like we were able to make it to MMA and compete in the same level, even though we were transitioning from one sport, excuse me, to another. But I think the future is gonna be different, and you see like kids today, they go to the gym to train MMA. They go to an MMA academy to learn MMA, and we didn't have that back in the day. So um, I would say, yeah, there's a lot to learn in MMA because you have to know how to strike and take people down and defend takedowns and defend strikes. And you have to know how to progress if you go to the ground, if you get taken down. You have to know how to get up. So there's a lot. Also, there's the mental aspect of the game. So I would I like to tell people to try to put everything together in a circle and kind of see what they do better or not, and kind of manage that. Let's say if now, like let's say you just started training MMA, but you don't have a lot of like skills or talent in jiu-jitsu. Like jiu-jitsu is just like harder for you, right? So okay, go focus in jiu-jitsu a little more for now until you get your jiu-jitsu to the level where you kickboxing is. So I feel like it's very manageable. um, yeah, like in the future, I don't see people transitioning from one sport to another that much anymore. Maybe we'll get to a point where people won't be able to transition because, let's say, if you competed Brazilian Jiu Jitsu your entire life, and by the time you're 25 years old, you decide to go and learn boxing and wrestling to go fight MMA, it might be too late because, like, the 25-year-old kids that trained MMA the entire life, they will be way more well rounded than you, right? So I feel like this is the future. And when it comes to kids that are going to the gym in a very young age to learn MMA, I tell them to manage what they body do better or not, right? Say I'm strong. I always had like the ability to like have isometric strength and hold people. So like wrestling and jiu-jitsu is easier for me. Striking is a little more tricky. So like I had to spend way more time training striking to be able to put that on my game, right? So it's kind of like manageable, and I feel like that's what a lot of kids and a lot of people that are starting MMA are doing right now.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting because the reason why that I asked that is because I came from at the school of wrestling. I used to wrestle back in high school, and I actually ran into Dennis Bermudez that used to be in the UFC, and he came to my school, and he gave out a speech during practice, and he basically said like it's best to learn wrestling first and then get into like striking styles, so that way you could be more accommodated easier as you step in. But 9 times out of 10, you don't know what you're going to face, as you fight that person. So, if I'm just like a pure boxer and I get into, just like that type of school first, but then I don't know anything about wrestling, then I would assume 9 times out of 10 that person that has better grappling skills, in my particular division can definitely outgun me, in a potential matchup.
Yeah, exactly. Like you put it perfect when you said you don't know what you are going to face, right? Like I came from a jiu-jitsu background, and when like the girls I was fighting realized that if I grabbed them, it was going to be a problem. They started like running from me. So now what I do, I have this great jiu-jitsu, but I can't do nothing with my jiu-jitsu because like I need to step up and go like learn more wrestling and more striking to be able to do good against those girls, because if not, my jiu-jitsu is not gonna be nothing in a fight. So yeah, like wrestling is great. Yeah, jiu-jitsu is also great. Muay Thai is also great. Kickboxing is great. Boxing is great. But like, depending on who you're facing and where you want to be in the division, you have to be well rounded. Yeah, it's great to step into an MMA academy knowing some wrestling. Yeah, it is. You have a base, right? You have a base of something. But like any martial arts that works in MMA, it's a good base to start. As long as you know that you have to go work and grind to learn MMA. It's different, and one of the biggest challenges I had in my career was trying to transition from being a jiu-jitsu competitor to, an MMA fighter. And also, back in the day, we used to train everything separate, and we were the ones in the octagon or in a sparring session trying to put everything together. So like that was very challenging as well, because like I'm training a bunch of different martial arts, and then I fight MMA, so I'm the one having to put that together in a way that works for MMA. When now it's different, right? Like we go to the gym to learn MMA, so the jujitsu people learn in an MMA academy today, it's a specific for MMA. The wrestling they learn today, it's a specific for MMA. The boxing, or like everything is a specific, and it's so different. You might think, oh no, it's just jiu-jitsu. It's just wrestling, but like you give you back in wrestling. Are you gonna give you back in an MMA fight? No, right? So like you can't be like training your body to give up positions, and to give up your back the whole time. And in jiu-jitsu, you do like reverse, and you spend a lot of time in your back and things like that. So when it comes to MMA, it's different. So like when you train specific for MMA, it's way way different.
Yeah, I agree because I was like I was mainly taught, from at the school to wrestle first before you start striking. And I thought, as far as from like what we've seen from like most premier level UFC fighters, a lot of them focus on the wrestling, but they need to be heavily schooled on the offensive striking end, because if I am facing that guy that's really good at Muay Thai and he has a good background in Jiu Jitsu, that's good. But at the same token, can he fight off of his back foot? Can he fight off of about the ground? Can he force me to a position where he could reverse grapple me, to which I can find a open opportunity to counter him? Or is he going to counter me with like a high kick or anything out of that particular? Because it seems like that you're walking into like a trap that could be a bad opportunity to go on. But from most UFC fights, it seems like a lot of people like to take it slow. But then if they see that one opportunity where they clip that person, and then they have their opportunity to either knock them out or try to submit them, it's like a catch 22 principle of like what's going to happen. after that particular situation.
And yeah, exactly. It's tricky, right? Like you don't know what's gonna happen, but as long as you're trained for those situations, and you been in every position that you might be put in a fight in the gym, you know, you'll be okay. Like if you put yourself in situations in the gym that you facing a fight, like you'll be okay, as long as you're aware of what's going on, you will be okay. But like you can't just like, okay, I'm just gonna learn wrestling and go fight MMA, or okay, I'm just gonna learn boxing, go fight MMA. Like that doesn't work. You have to train everything, and it's a lot of thing, like I would say MMA is one of the toughest sport, if not the hardest one, because it's so much, like in boxing you have like a number of punches you can throw. In kickboxing you have a number of kicks and punches and elbows, and it's more than boxing, but like it's still way less than what you have to know walking to an MMA fight, right? Like it's so much, and if you don't train yourself to be well rounded, you're not gonna last long there.
Yeah, so basically you have to be multidimensional. You just can't fight one way. You have to understand what's going to happen in any particular moment of the fight.
Yeah, I would say like today you still can get away with like, let's say like you were really like elite level striker, like way better than anybody else in your weight division, but then you know how to defend takedowns very very well, and when people take you down, you're just like really good in getting up. That's a problem in MMA today, but in the future I don't think it's gonna be like, you have to be able to be taken down and know how to like defend positions on the ground and know how to progress, like you will have to know a lot more in the future, and I feel like that's where we're heading towards, with people like going to MMA academies and learning MMA, right? Like those transitionings, they are gonna become harder and harder, and we see that already. Like people that train MMA, that the young kids, the new generation coming in, they different. They just different. They do MMA, So yeah, you have to be multi-dimensional and understand every single aspect of the game.
Yeah, I agree because I would assume that's how a lot of fighters are trying to take clips and notes off of other fighters that are fighting certain types of certain types of styles to try to be prepared for harder matchups. And I think that's very good because that means that the students of of today will become a problem in the future. So um, I wanted to ask with another question with female MMA. How would you see fighters like Clarissa Shields coming into the sport of MMA? Do you think that she's a good addition to the sport? And do you think female MMA is better than female boxing?
I don't know her very well, so I can't say much about her. But like, ooh, we're talking about the sport that keeps growing for so many years, right? I don't think boxing is more interesting than MMA. MMA is just something else, Like there's a lot. It's a smart fight in octagon. Like MMA, it's very unique, right? Like it's not only punches, kicks, knees, elbows, takedowns. Like every single like move you make matters, right? So yeah, it's kind of hard for me to talk about this, but like MMA, in my opinion, it's like one of the greatest sports in the world.
So, like, you would say boxing is like a step under right now.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like MMA grows more than boxing, and I would say I wouldn't put boxing a step on there. I would say MMA is the evolution of boxing. How about this?
Yeah, yeah. Because like like to me, I've grown up with so many boxing fights that I've watched. Like Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, all those big faces. In the sport of boxing, and I see that has just watered down a bit because people are not calling for the best fights right now. But
Hmm.
for MMA, they've like skyrocketed it to a point where you know let's just say, if like the UFC is not going to be that one particular organization to give out best fights, there will be other marketing agencies that will probably come around in the future to be like, hey, well, if you don't like these fights, like we'll give you these fights, and then we'll do cross promotional platform fights where, this champion can fight that champion, and then that'll be like like a mega fight tournament that people could pay to watch. And I like how the UFC is, setting things up because, correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody that's ranked in the UFC, they're all fighting each other. There's no ducking and dodging, right?
Yeah, yeah. Everybody, like, you have, like, in order to fight for the belt, you have to. There is no other way around it. You have to kind of like, not kind of like, you have to fight everybody, and you have to fight the top contenders, and that was one of like the hardest things for me, because like I was number one contender in a strawweight division for so long, and when I started like losing some fights, I was like getting farther and farther from that top, and I know there's no way I'm gonna fight for the title if I'm not fighting those girls and moving up in the rankings, right? So it was very challenging for me to see me like stepping down the rankings, and like stepping away from that belt, which is like the main thing. We fight for that, right? Like not the belt itself, but like everything the belts brings to you, like becoming a champion, inspiring people, changing lives, and learning about yourself and being better, and one of the greatest things I learned from the sport, it was to become a better person, trying to become a better athlete, like by trying to become a better athlete, I started like conditioning my brain to trying to become a better everything, better daughter, better, having better relationships, doing everything better in life, and that's the way I live my life now. I just want to do things well and treat people well, and keep doing the things that drives me to be better, you know.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you said that because I believe that you are a top, pound for pound type of fighter, and I think everything that you've committed in the sport is definitely aging well, and it's only going to get better from here. And I think as much as the influence is continuing to grow for women's fighting sports in general, that's a really good contribution to help that next generation that comes up. But
Yeah.
in regards to the UFC, due to the financial ramifications that fighters are going through, do you think there should be some things that should be fixed within the UFC for how fighters are complaining about, let the fighter pay and not, being able to stay active as consistently?
In my opinion, fighters fight, right? Like, man, like, what can I talk about a company that changed my life and my parents' life? I came from nothing, and I have a good life now, and I'm able to see my parents smiling, and traveling the world, and I'm able to live in a city like Las Vegas, and living the American dream, and things like that. um, I I understand the fighters that talks about like getting paid better, because what we do, it's very extreme, right? But I also understand the company and what goes like around the company. Like in order for the UFC to operate the way it does, it takes so much, you know. And me being here, seeing how things work in the background, and go like, wow, this is massive, right? Like how much work and effort it takes for this company to make those great fights. You know, it's incredible, you know. And hats off to Dana because he's a great leader. He kind of like respects everybody. He's a great man, you know. Like a lot of people say bad things about him, but I respect him so much. Without him, I wouldn't be where I am today. My family wouldn't be where they are today, you know. And I'm just so grateful for everything MMA brought into my life. I can't say nothing about like getting paid more or less and things like that. Yeah, I risked my life to do this, but then, you know, I'm in a good situation in life, so I can't say nothing about this.
Yeah. I just figured that I asked that because I wasn't so sure, but I mean, like to me, I think that the UFC is doing well. They just like need to just keep doing their thing and just keep expanding to make the organization grow faster. But as far as the UFC as a whole, do you think the UFC should be co-promoting with other promotional agencies to expand their branding more, or how do you think that the UFC will grow years from now?
Um, well, I think the UFC keeps growing, right? Like the way I just put it, you know, they put in great fights, and it's just like a massive company that do great fights. I'm not sure how they're thinking about expanding. I'm not sure if they thinking about doing cross promotions and things like that. Um, but I think the UFC will continue to put on great fights like they do. That's what they do best, you know. And but I'm not sure about what are their plans for the future.
All right. I just figured that I asked that, but let me ask you with one final question. What influence do you want to bring to your audience when it's all said and done for everything that you are contributing to MMA, and what will be the last words that you want to give to your audience that follows you?
Okay, so interesting enough, right? Like I fought my entire life, but like I'm a very peaceful person, and like one of my missions in life, if not my main mission, is to leave a place a better place than what I found. Um, I get up every day with a desire to win and to bring results to my life and those around me, you know, and I want to be able to be a big impact in fighters' career. I know how fighters struggle with a lot of things in life. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about like just the fact of being a fighter is so challenging, and we're still trying to figure out how to, you know, like yeah, we have kind of like a blueprint of what it takes to train and step in an octagon, but like to live a fighter's lifestyle, it's very, very, very challenging. So like finding the best way for a fighter to be happy and compete, it's very challenging. So I want to be able to help those fighters, not only with the technique and the tactical part of the game, but also in their lives and what it takes to have balance in life. You know, like I'm talking about spirituality and health, you know, and mindset and relationships, things that are very, very important, and a lot of fighters kind of like forget about in the beginning of their career, and then and then later on they start craving those things in life because this is life, right? So like how can we kind of like adjust um, that so fighters understand that they like we all human being and we need all of that in order to be happy. I wish fighters kind of like lived more balanced life, and I'm talking about a weight cut sport like our sport we cut weight, right? So it's very hard also to like manage life through those big weight cuts, which is like people look at it and think it's hard, but like they have no idea how hard it is. It's very, very hard. So I want to cause an impact in those fighters' career, and even like fighters that are not in the UFC but might be one day, or the ones that might never be in the UFC one day, but they kind of, I want to make them aware of what they're doing to their bodies, to their minds, to make sure they, live a long, healthy life.
Well, I appreciate you for giving those final words. You are an amazing woman, and I hope everything goes well for everything that you're doing, for the rest of your career.
Thank you so much, and thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you very much, and best of luck to everything that you do. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
all right, I'll see you later.
See you
Bye.
later.
All right. I appreciate you guys. Salute to Claudia Gadhela. She is a beast. Great woman and great, fighting mind. But yeah, salute to the mighty LDBC. Salute to the MMA fight community. For anybody that watches this, this video, and I appreciate you guys for coming through. So be sure to like, share, comment, do what you got to do. And thank you, Claudia, for coming through. All right. Salute to the mighty, mighty LDBC and peace. And I'm out. And also shout out to David for setting up this interview. David Aziz. Thank you very much. And hope everything goes well with Claudia's career. So appreciate you, Claudia, for coming on. And yeah, I'm out, guys. See you later. Peace.